Alrada alada.
Alright, this is PRpHD here.
And this is Mudita here. And we're discussing the Warner Discovery merger as it's affecting all the content on HBO Max and Discovery Plus and all the things that are tied up with all that stuff. And we just wanted to do that because we love talking about movies and stuff so much that we also enjoy a lot of our own conversations involving platforms and stuff, and we want to bring that into some of our content creation as well too. And we want to share that with y'all. So yeah.
Are we content with content?
There you go.
We do Max with Mudita.
Yeah, and this is the winter of our discontent, and we're taking it to the max.
Is winter coming?
Oh man, that's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is also on HBO Max, right?
There you go, yeah.
Yeah. Well, enough of that.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
So let's start from the top. This is all due to the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. There's a pending merging of the platforms of, there's a pending merger of the platforms of the HBO Max with Discovery Plus in mid-2023. And then in the backdrop of that is this merger between Warner Brothers Media with Discovery Media. And then in the backdrop of that is this latest phase of what they're calling the streaming wars, which is the battle of all the streaming services duking it out. That being like Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO Max and Hulu and all those other major players and whatnot.
I don't remember the executives got shuffled or switched or whatever, but it seems like they're making a lot of decisions regarding all that kind of stuff. And cancellations and stuff. The first thing was ESPN Plus increases prices. And they did that as a result of they wanted more content for their platform. And they thought in order to do that they had to raise prices, otherwise they would lose out on licenses for soccer and golf and tennis and a whole bunch of other stuff that they might not charge for on cable or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it seems so this latest phase of the streaming war seems that the growth is slowing. The number of users subscribed to services has been slowing down.
So in order to increase the money coming in, they got to increase the prices.
Yeah, before they could keep prices low and just focus on increasing the number of users and acquire users over time, and then just keep money trickling in over time with more subscriptions. But then, as people are getting tapped out in terms of the number of subscription services they can join on to, it's harder and harder to, like you're saying, to make money on growth. So the only focus then is to maximize the amount of money you can get per user already on your service at that point. Netflix was the cream of the crop for this for a good solid 8 to 10 years or something. There's basically no competition to it. But then as more platforms like Disney Plus and HBO Max were getting in on the race and Peacock and all that, Paramount Plus, then they didn't offer such a good value anymore in comparison. So then they went towards originals. They went towards doubling down on their exclusive content. They went towards getting licenses from other countries to get their content on their platform and not on other platforms. And now it's more of focusing on having specific content to your platform that's also a unique value add, but also getting people locked into your platform and stuff.
And Netflix is having problems with that, with increasing the prices, cracking down on password sharing and a whole bunch of stuff like that, which is upset fans and customers.
Right. They're trying to it seems like it was such a good value before, but now they're kind of
getting rid of the value.
They're penny pinching a little bit more. Yeah. It's how Airlines for a while they're oh, we're a new airline. We want to get more people aware of us. But then after a while, it's oh, we're going to get you to pay $20, $50 to have a carry-on at luggage.
Yeah, there's different phases, yeah.
Yeah, so they're
it's
not...
Spirit, I guess, oh, we'll give you a great deal, and then, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Once you get people through the door, you're like, okay, you gotta pay extra.
Yeah.
And here's like the extra for all the extra amenities that you could possibly want. You gotta pay more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a similar thing to like other tech companies. Like it seems like these are like usually from like traditional media companies getting in on this strategy now. Like Netflix itself was a tech company in its origins, but like now it seems like as like Disney Plus and uh you know ESPN Plus and like Hulu and Paramount and Peacock are getting in on this. They're learning from how tech companies were like viewing growth and monetization strategies. So like at first, like you're just trying to get a loyal base and just get really good content. Later on, you're focused on growing the audience and expanding the reach and having more numbers and just getting more subscribers. Then later on, you monetize really hard and get people locked in and get people saying, "Oh, I can't walk away from this now because my favorite show is on this. It's the only place that has my favorite show." And stuff
You can
like
watch
that.
it on my phone.
You can watch it on your phone, and it's also like you can't even like get it on any other platforms, like unless you pirate it or whatever.
Well, unless like they license like 5 different platforms, the original thing. Yeah.
Right. Or it's but like they don't want to license it anymore because they want
after a couple of years they'll do that.
Yeah, they're willing to like now platforms are willing to invest in originals now as a result. So like on Netflix, they did an extensive promotional campaign for like Stranger Things 4, for example. Which like they spent a huge apparently like I didn't watch it, but my friends told me they spent like a huge budget on the production of this show. Like it's like a huge budget show that felt like it was movie level cinema blockbuster budget on like a TV show about some kids in like a small town or whatever. And like
I remember at the time I was like, oh, it's Obi-Wan versus Stranger Things 4. That was the big hype thing by like the news or whatever.
No, Obi-Wan so far, we only watched 2 episodes of it, admittedly. But so far, it's not quite shaping up to sound like as like.
To be fair, I don't like Stranger Things that much. To be fair,
that's true. That's true. But I guess they're on season 4. I've only watched like.
There are definitely people who are drawn towards those apps because of those things. Yeah.
Right. I know people who like watched the entire thing of season 1 of Stranger Things, and then they were hooked on Stranger Things season 2 and stuff. Yeah. And then like on Paramount Plus, we have stuff like South Park. The originals for South Park on there, and even like Reno 911's coming back.
Reno 911, Halo, Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek. Yeah, leaning into the Star Trek library more because like if you can only get Star Trek and you have a bunch of Star Trek fans, why not lean into that?
Yeah, it's a pretty dedicated fan base.
So yeah. But anyway, that's where the streaming wars are now. So that's in the backdrop of like again like the original topic of this was the HBO Max merger with Discovery.
Yeah.
There's been like some like a lot of buzz from people online, like saying, "Oh, this is terrible! Like they're removing all this like beloved HBO Max content. Like a lot of fans,
some stuff that hasn't even came out yet.
People really love this stuff. So like some stuff would be like Batgirl."
Yeah.
The movie, like that was a movie that like they spent $90 million on.
It has Michael Keaton as Batman in it.
Oh really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Well, we're never gonna know about it anyway. I could be making it up. You won't know. They're not releasing it.
It was like in post production, right? Like it wasn't. They'd already done all the filming for it or something like that, right? They just needed to like do editing and visual effects or something.
Yeah.
Why not just release it? But I guess they're like saying it's like a change in strategy. And to be clear, like this is Discovery acquiring Warner's media library, which I thought was an interesting thing. I would have thought it would have been the other way around. It seems like it's actually Discovery acquiring Warner's library.
I actually haven't checked Discovery Plus's numbers because like it's a more recent app that's been growing. It's at like a cheap like $5 tier or whatever,
Yeah, but like even $5 a month is like $60 a year. That's actually a lot of money.
And if it's growing, this is a new app,
Yeah, so they're in the growth phase and like.
These other apps which are like the honeymoon phase.
Right. Interesting way of phrasing it, actually. The honeymoon phase of the
Well,
apps.
I'm sorry if I offended anyone, but like that's
No.
how it's referred to.
No, I think I know what you mean by that. Like, it's like, oh, you want to have the best content, you want to have your best foot forward.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the best stuff. But then, like, after a while, you're at home and you're like, whatever. Kind of let yourself go. You burp in front of your partner or whatever. You fart. And like, what happened to the romance? It's like, we still got some good shows on here. Yeah, you can watch Star Trek again. You can watch some of the older seasons. I don't like that. I want some new content. It's fine. We'll get to new content eventually, honey. Whatever. Just watch Voyager again.
No, the Borg, 7 to 9.
7 to 9. You like 7 to 9. Just help yourself to 7 to 9.
Henson Kim.
We're not going to go on any new content dates anymore. Like, there used to be so much romance. Whatever. Janeway. What's wrong with Janeway? The people actually like Janeway. She's just not there. I just don't personally like her. Okay, maybe enough of that.
That went really far. You really went really far with that one.
I like doing my little bits like that.
There you go, yeah.
Anyway. This was a podcast by PRpHD and Muditaheart. For more by PRpHD, check out his streams at twitch.tv/PRpHD. Also, use his affiliate links to buy your own retro games and digital game bundles. And I'm Muditaheart, a game designer and developer focused on making kinder and cozier communities. For more games made by me, check out my itch.io at muditaheart.itch.io, or check out game streams that I've made at twitch.tv/muditaheart. And for more videos and games and more, check out my linktree at linktr.ee/muditaheart. That's linktr.ee/muditaheart. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you'll join us again soon. But yeah, so what's affected here? So a bunch of Sesame Street specials were affected on HBO Max.
20 episodes were removed.
200
episodes.
200 episodes in the back catalog of Sesame Street were removed. The new Aquaman animated series was removed.
Like King of Atlantis or whatever it was called.
Yeah, King of Atlantis. Joe Pera did not get renewed for a new season.
I mean, that had like bad ratings to begin with.
Apparently it had bad ratings.
And it had like a year or 2 years in between the productions.
Yeah, it seems like also Infinity Train and Mao Mao were also these beloved series that like people were really distraught by, like, I don't know, maybe distraught is a strong word, but like very, very saddened to hear that they were removed from the platform. Some of these shows that were removed were, already on Cartoon Network and then just got shoveled strictly to streaming platforms. And then the fans were like, okay, I guess we'll watch it on streaming platforms to support the show. But then to get removed on the streaming platform even further felt like an insult to injury. So it's like really hurting the creators and the fans of those series. Yeah. Also, I just felt like noting like Ravi Patel's Pursuit of Happiness. I just felt like that was an interesting show to remove, considering it's about like stuff like parenting and retirement, and it kind of brings me to the next note that like a lot of these shows are generally youth and children's content oriented, and that are getting removed. But Ravi Patel's Pursuit of Happiness is like clearly an adult oriented show. It's by the very definition of it. It's about like people dealing with like literal like things in middle age you're dealing with and stuff. Similar things could be said about Joe Pera as well. But
I just want to, I forgot to mention this before, like we did this, but like All Elite Wrestling, they're not canceled or anything, but the contract's expiring within a year.
Is that on HBO Max?
It's not HBO Max, but like they were talking a deal before, and I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. And like, they're on TBS and TNT, which is owned by Turner.
Okay, so, and is Turner the same thing as
Warner Brothers? Yeah.
Warner Brothers. Yeah. Okay, that's PRpHD with weighing in on the wrestling talk there.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a entertainment sports.
I think a little bit more about that before I like end it. They're gonna continue with like the hockey and the basketball on like TNT, but like everything else, I'm not sure that they will renew the contracts for.
Okay.
Just because like those are always like high ratings things for them. Sports, live sports.
Yeah, honestly, like sports is like probably one of the driving like exclusive content things on like a lot of these platforms now. So like, yeah, even like ESPN's Plus doesn't even have a lot of like exclusive sports deals. It seems like.
ESPN, they have like ESPN by itself. They have like Monday Night Football and like Sunday Night Baseball and stuff like that. ESPN Plus is more about like exclusive movies. ESPN 30 on 30, which a bunch of them are on Disney Plus anyway. And like in addition to stuff like they have like golf, like minor league stuff, like Major League Soccer in the U.S. and stuff like that was a big one that they wanted to increase the price for because like they knew like America had like a huge fan base for.
Okay, so it's like ESPN, the channel on cable television, targets different content than like ESPN Plus, which is like more targeted towards like
more niche, more targeted, more
bingeable streaming media kind of stuff. Like I had a good friend who got ESPN Plus as a trial simply to watch like the Bruce Lee documentary or something. Right. So like kind of like documentaries about sports and things like that. Okay, I see. But anyway, to return to our previous note on youth content being affected on HBO Max, that's just to say that like there's some theories that like one of the reasons why they're removing content from HBO Max is because like they're trying to recalibrate and like retarget their target audiences for HBO Max and Discovery Plus in the merger, because like in some sources like on Polygon and like maybe CNBC, they said that HBO Max targets adult males and then Discovery's content typically targets adult females. So maybe they don't want to divide their user base to also have like children's and youth content on there as well.
In addition, like when they merge them, maybe they're like, "Oh, honey, you're watching Watchmen HBO. Maybe we should watch Andrew Ziffert."
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's like some cross pollination on there or something. And like this isn't like this is like adults who are like like they're maybe not like children's or youth oriented or whatever. These are like, I don't know, relatively educated or affluent,
like suburban college folk who watch South Park and the Criterion Collection, that kind of stuff. Watchmen HBO.
And like the things not affected would be stuff like South Park or Friends, who are like clearly targeting an audience who's older, right? Who's like
because like Friends, that was a while ago.
Friends is a show from the 90s, you know. And South Park is a show that's been going on for like 30 years or something, from like Comedy Central and whatnot.
And they're big. They're sort of like the live sports draws for HBO Max right now.
Right. Yeah. Right. But yeah. Furthermore, not only is it to target the audiences, it's also like they said it might be unfortunately to avoid paying residuals to the creators. Who have their content on HBO Max. So they don't want to compensate people for having their content on there.
Which is weird because I always figured it was like a commission or something. Like
I figured
they would make more money that way if they did that.
I guess so. I don't know how they negotiated the contracts or whatever, but like I guess there's a theory that like potentially by like removing the content they save more money. I don't get it. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, like this month or last month they removed like all the Christopher Nolan films.
What, really?
Tenet, Batman Begins.
Jeez, that's terrible. Yeah. Those are like huge movies. Like, jeez. Wow. So, yeah, we want to move away from Christopher Nolan's movies and have more Friends in South Park. I think that'll be more to our speed. Yeah, I'm sorry. You see what we were saying, Chris? I'm just sorry we got to do this to you, but no hard feelings, right? We're interested in having to deal with you later, maybe, Chris.
It does sound like a contract negotiation thing. Also, it just seems like that specifically would alienate me, myself.
Yeah, all these nerds on here are trying to watch Chris Nolan movies. We can't have that. We gotta have them watch Friends and South Park. We gotta have people binge on these, like, things that they could just spend decades watching and, like, subscribing to. We can't have people thinking and having their brains bended by Christopher Nolan movies. We can't have people stay on our platform watching those things. Once they watch those things, they're gonna be thinking too much. You gotta have them just watching other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they still have the HBO exclusives. I don't know how much they draw, but like at least they're like part of the HBO brand, like Watchmen, HBO, The Sopranos, The Wire, etc.
Right. Like Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, of course. House of the Dragon's a new one coming out.
Right, House of the Dragon's a huge thing coming out for some people. Like feel like
there's an AEW tie into it also.
Oh, really?
Which is a very good episode they had. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So yeah, House of the Dragon. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, okay. And as so you're weighing in on the wrestling thing. A little brief note on the Sesame Street stuff. As this resident Muppet expert here.
Okay, there you go, yeah.
If you're going to be weighing on the wrestling stuff, I think
you definitely have to, yeah.
Weigh in on the Sesame Street stuff.
Yeah.
So them removing 200 episodes of Sesame Street and like getting rid of a bunch of specials, I think that that was something that was kind of like brewing over time. I don't think the relationship between Sesame Street and HBO Max was supposed to be super long-term potentially because Sesame Street in its nature is a non-profit organization on public broadcasting media.
Yeah.
And like part of like the deal of Sesame Street being on HBO, having like some semi-exclusive online content on there, like timed exclusive online content. It was like they would have like the latest season on there up for a year on HBO Max exclusively. And then after the year it would be open. But the reason they did that was to like help out with their income during like a time of like some income problems and stuff like that. And Sesame Street has like historically had like ebbs and flows of like their income like throughout its history. So like they're known for like making deals and things like that to like try and like keep the lights on and stuff at that studio and stuff like that. Like in the 90s, they were having economic problems when like they were getting crowded by Barney of all things.
Yeah.
And so they skewed more towards Elmo content because Elmo skewed more younger audiences. And like, yeah, to get to your point, like Tickle Me Elmo became like this fad toy.
It was all over the news, like it was all over Jay Leno.
Yeah, it became like Jay Leno talking about Tickle Me Elmo is like
every single episode.
Such a millennial memory. Watching Jay Leno late night talk show talking about Tickle Me Elmo.
Like
that's so that's so 90s.
And one of the clerks was sent to hospital after being trampled in the frenzy.
Somebody in the crowd yelled, "There's the Elmos," and they rushed us.
Or check out your local paper. It's probably crammed with ads from Elmo profiteers.
But yeah, like Tickle Me Elmo was like the fad thing, and it like saved the company basically. Yeah. And like Sesame Street, like even though it's non-profit, unlike like something like Mr. Rogers in comparison, Sesame Street in its nature was willing to like monetize its products and like go into commercialization routes and like sell products and merchandise in order to sustain themselves as a company and their media enterprise. So anyway, that's my little rant about like Sesame Street doing that with like HBO Max and like, having like willing to cut deals to like make things happen and stuff.
I actually have a little tangent on that also. Like when it happened, I was like, as a non like hardcore fan or whatever, I was like, was this really weird? Like it's on HBO Max. Like I didn't quite understand what's going on there.
Yeah, it does feel a little incongruous to be like, okay, let's watch Game of Thrones, and now let's watch a little bit of Elmo.
You went from like PBS to like a premium channel.
Yeah,
we gotta pay like $100 for cable and then $10 for HBO to like watch Elmo or whatever.
Yeah, I remember mentioning to people, Sesame Street is like in its origins was designed to be a show to like educate inner city children the like preschool education, because a lot of pre-K education wasn't available in inner cities, because that just wasn't available, so they were falling behind academically. But a lot of those kids had television, so that was in its origins what Sesame Street was about. It's actually inspired. A lot of the key creators were inspired during the Martin Luther King memorial, in like the after his assassination and stuff.
Yeah.
But then like you compare that to like them like having timed exclusives on HBO Max where it's not available and it's got timed exclusives and you have to pay for it on a premium platform. Like it does seem a little incongruous with its original. It's gone pretty far away from its original goals. So it seemed like already kind of like a timed. Like, I don't know, it didn't seem like a permanent arrangement in a lot of ways.
At the same time, like, there's some nostalgia for it, I feel, with, like, the Street Gang documentary on there, and the passing of, I think, Louise or whatever, from the writer from the show.
Oh, right.
That happened, like, while they were on HBO.
Right, yeah, more and more, like, alumni and performers from the Sesame Street and Muppets original crew have been, like, making the news and, like, also passing away recently. And
I think Big Bird's like performer like retired also during this, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's Carol Spinney.
Yeah.
Follow that bird and all that.
Follow that bird. I mean,
yeah.
I guess they followed the bird. They love HBO Max.
They love HBO Max. Yeah, I mean, a whole generation of performers, and I think I think them making a documentary on Street Gang. That's the documentary on Sesame Street based on the book that I've like read and like recommended in some of my talks that I've done. Street Gang is like seems like it's coming at a time where like there's a changing of the old guard and like maybe they are looking to like inspire another generation of people to like think about the kind of goals that Sesame Street had and stuff like that. And who knows what's going on with that? But I don't know. I think it's just in times when we're dealing with this kind of stuff. It's good to see that there were creators like this in a similar time where there's a lot of upheaval as well. Yeah. Where like now we have like a lot of millennials coming of age. And all that.
People are hitting age expectancy like David Warner recently.
Oh yeah, David Warner.
Not related, by the way.
From Tron.
Yeah, Tron. Batman the Animated Series.
Right.
A whole bunch of live action films too.
Yeah. Right. It seems like there's a whole changing of the guard from like a lot of like boomers who are like performers and artists passing away from like beloved media from the 90s that the millennials grew up on. And like now a lot of millennials are coming of age and like reaching their 30s and 40s and reaching their peak creativity. And I mean, of course their creativity can mature and ripen as well. But there's like other people that can also, take up the charge and like, also with like a lot of issues that millennials are facing as a generation, with like climate change and discrimination and income inequality. Seems like
like a DC film or like Miss Marvel that we're all talking about now.
Yeah, or like HBO's Watchmen or something like that.
There you go. Yeah.
So like maybe it isn't so strange that it's Sesame Street and HBO's Watchmen are on the same platform in some ways. There's like like you watch.
And with the current like DC and DC live action films too.
Right.
Which I'm not gonna spoil too much.
Right. That is the thing that's happening, like Street Gang and then watching the Sesame Street backlog, right? You can watch Street Gang, the documentary about content, and then you can watch the actual content itself that it's referencing, right?
Yeah.
And then like, on Disney Plus, there's like the ILM documentary, and then you can actually watch all these Star Wars movies again.
Yeah.
And then like on Netflix, you can watch a documentary about the greatest films, and you can watch all those greatest films on Netflix also.
Yeah, I feel like Peacock didn't do a good job of that, but like the trying or something.
Yeah, I think that's a really wonderful thing that like
there's an opportunity from the streaming wars that really helped out consumers and like people who wanted to learn about all this stuff.
Yeah, it's
you have like History Channel, Smithsonian, and all this other content. Like, wow, like go figure. Like in the '90s, but like we really gotta watch History Channel. We really gotta watch the Smithsonian Channel. Yeah,
and it's a positive aspect of consumer culture too. Yeah. You can watch more. And you're learning more, and you're not only are you consuming more, you're having a more sophisticated palate or something of some kind, and you're developing your active watching skills, your film literacy skills, while also like being a consumer on these platforms too. Like maybe you've been binge watching Friends or something. You're like, well, I don't know, what are some of these documentaries also on HBO Max that like that I might want to make me think. And like, maybe I will check some of this stuff out. I'm like, you know, what's going on with Game of Thrones? What's the behind the scenes of that like? And like, oh, I never really thought about that before.
Then you learn about George R.R. Martin and him never finishing anything.
Right.
Then you read the books, and then you read other stuff that's like a 200-page novel or whatever.
Right. Like
2,000-page even. Yeah.
Right. A love of media can be like this gateway into like, you know,
Knowledge, yeah.
towards like deeper knowledge and stuff like that. And like, you know, maybe like, you know, maybe some people who like Game of Thrones will find that like their favorite part of Game of Thrones is like learning some behind the scenes thing about Game of Thrones that like is so much more interesting than like some stuff in the books itself, you know?
Like budget, like how they can easily screw up Game of Thrones in that final season.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing could be said about like how Ghibli movies were on HBO Max as well. Like, you know, just reading some of these interviews with Hayao Miyazaki, like Spirited Away, critically acclaimed movie on HBO Max, and also won an Oscar. But Hayao Miyazaki didn't appear for the Oscars for Spirited Away. Why is that?
Yeah.
He did it to protest America's involvement in the war on terror and stuff like that. Like that's something that like is you know, like just by having these platforms open and these things, you know, it just creates these opportunities for these little things to add up and like randomly happen, and like this pinball maze of like, you know, knowledge being spread out. But hopefully people don't stick to just binge watching Friends all the time.
There you go.
You know? But you know, who knows what might happen with that as well.
Right.
Anyway, that was a nice long tangent.
Yeah.
I think that's some of the best stuff though.
Yeah.
I guess we pretty much covered everything. And then like, I guess if you want, you can get a 40% annual discount of HBO Max. $70 annual with ads.
This is a product placement. It's just not like it was cool. Like, keep in mind, I don't know how long the Criterion Collection is going to stay on HBO Max or whatever.
Right.
If you don't have access to Canopy or something, that a Criterion channel, you get like $70 annual with ads.
Yo, the Criterion Collection is like this stupid, like, it's like the best, you know, first love of all these streaming platforms.
Yeah.
And then just get kicked around to the next streaming
platform. It was originally on Hulu, and then it was on HBO Max.
Yeah.
It was on something before HBO Max also, I forgot what it was.
It's like it's the best movies that people feel like they want to see but never end up seeing. And then it always starts on a platform and it's like, oh yeah, I would love to subscribe to this platform to watch them. And then, like, once it's, like, no longer profitable, they moved on to other more profitable products. They kick it off of there, and they move it on to the next platform.
Yeah, that happens a lot with, like, certain sports players and stuff, too. They get them to, like, increase the popularity of the brand, and they get to, like, get the team even better.
Watch the Criterion Collection, people. That's maybe a better takeaway from this.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about things. Watch some things. I should watch my Criterion Collection first a week. Yeah.
It's $70 with ads per year. This is a small thing. There's not a lot of time I can go over it, but like before they're moving towards ad supported apps, because like sometimes there would be a huge increase in ad spending, sometimes there wouldn't be, but like that was another source of revenue for them, and like Disney Plus as a result. But like we'll keep it $7.99 except right now, except like you have to watch ads instead of watching it without ads, which would be another tier at like $10.99 or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now they're like trying to find little ways to micro optimize monetization.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Have the little. It's like shrinkflation a little bit or something like that, right? Like
sometimes when you do the tiers with the ads, like you make more money with the tiers with the ads than when you do with like the higher non-ad subscription also. But it depends like every quarter or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so they like they creep it up on you.
Yeah,
they creep it up on you. Yeah, like, oh, okay, I'm willing to pay this. Oh, there's ads now. Well, you know, I guess I was paying this before. Oh, I don't like these ads.
Maybe I shouldn't miss ads, or maybe it's like at least the ads aren't like from someone very upsetting that's on them. Like they would be on YouTube or something, you know?
Yeah. But like, now people are starting to say stuff like, maybe piracy is going to come back. Because the whole point...
Maybe buying DVDs will come back because like there won't be ads on it.
That's also true.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the big value ads that...
Or maybe I don't want to support like who they're putting in the ads for or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, or like to add data or something like that or whatnot.
Or you don't want your data to get researched with or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, Netflix is gathering data from everybody
Yeah.
and stuff. Like, that's
and
how they give
YouTube
you
is like the
recommended-
worst. Like you get like all the stuff that's on your feed that you don't want to see, and then it end up like giving it ads or whatever.
So then you watch a platform, but then it's doing similar stuff. Did you know, like, Netflix gives different thumbnails depending on your background and your profile?
I had no idea.
Did you know that? So, like,
I know
it'll
that.
show you, like, a different cover for the same show depending on, like, your browsing history.
I know they kept changing up the thumbnails all the time.
Yeah, but, like, it's targeted towards you or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, that's messed up, right? When I found that out, I had my mind blown.
Sometimes I also just like how like the thumbnails like they look more professional than like the stuff that you normally see on YouTube. Where it's like the Photoshop with like the words and like really weird like cropping and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not exactly juice down like it would be on Netflix or whatever.
Right. I mean, it's on a budget, you know.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
you get what you pay for on
Yeah.
YouTube, you know. Yeah.
And hopefully, sometimes it's stuff you don't want in the first place. They
Yeah.
put on the feed,
Yeah. YouTube is literally made by people in their own house.
Yeah, dude.
And you kind of want that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're like, I trust this person.
I don't want to talk to a corporation,
Yeah, and that person in their house is definitely not a corporation. Sometimes it's a corporation pretending to be a regular person. Or whatever. And that feels
Or like
weird.
they learn stuff from like a corporation to like respit it out or like have an even worse take on it or something.
Right. Or you have a corporation learning from regular people, and they have a whole film crew, and they're trying to act like that they're just like regular people, and that feels really weird. Yeah.
Well, on that horrible note, maybe we should head over here.
Anyway, watch the Criterion Collection.
Don't watch HBO Max, watch the Criterion Collection.
Maybe pirate stuff.
Buy some
There's
DVDs.
too many ads.
Try to figure out what to store it.
Get some 99-cent DVDs, you know. Yeah. Watch better stuff. Don't give your data away. Get ad block. But also support us. Alright, cool.
There we go. We ended on that. Yeah, fine.
Alright,
This
cool.
is PRpHD out.
This is Mudita. Take care. Support your creators.
Product placement.
And product placement. Alright, take it easy.
Easy.
Bye.